Hi there chaps and welcome back to the channel. So today we're doing a comparison video between Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, seeing what each of the games did well, what they didn't do so well, so some lessons can be drawn. Before we get into it though, if you do enjoy the following video, be sure to subscribe. We do everything Battlefield on this channel, so if you're a Battlefield fan, this could be the place for you. So the first thing that hit me when playing Battlefield 1 was the atmosphere of the game. As I loaded up the game, I was put into the prologue scene where I played as individual soldiers, each who fell to their death as the battle unfolded. It hit me hard and I really felt that I was transported back to the 1917 time period. I knew I was playing a World War I game right off the start. This transferred also very well into multiplayer. As soon as I jumped into multiplayer, I felt I was surrounded by explosions, trench warfare, horses, bayonet charge, you name it, it was in it. You felt like it was a World War I shooter game. Battlefield 5, on the other hand, at least in my opinion, feels like a generic 1940s shooter game. Now there are exceptions to this, like when I play Pacific Storm maps, like Iwo Jima for example. There I do feel transported into World War II, and I think this really hits the nail on the head. When it comes to Battlefield 1, it focuses very much on the large battles that everybody knows, like Verdun, the Italian Front and the Argonne Offensive, whereas Battlefield 5 focused on much more obscure battles of World War II that probably the general population wasn't so aware of. In addition, when I launched Battlefield 1, I noticed how many features were in the game that aren't in Battlefield 5. For one, there's a team switcher in Battlefield 1. Now, the amount of times in Battlefield 5 I've been wishing for a team switcher because the teams have been so unbalanced and I just wished to change, but I unfortunately could not do so. In Battlefield 1 there is also a more advanced server browser, allowing players to search more specifically for what they're looking for in their next game, and in addition at the end of each round or game there's a map picker allowing players to choose what they want to move on to next. In addition, class balancing seemed to be spot on in Battlefield 1. Playing as an assault player, I found I had a realistic chance of taking on an enemy tank by myself if they were a poor driver. In fact, the first game I went on, I managed to destroy 2 tanks in one game. Now, on the other hand, in Battlefield 5, playing as an assault player feels underwhelming at best when it comes to completing their primary objective, which is to destroy enemy armor. I think this boils down to a few things. One, that assault players don't simply come equipped with enough explosives in Battlefield 5 to take on even a single heavy tank, or realistically to have a chance of taking that heavy tank down to half health without having to go and resupply at an ammo station. In addition, I think assault players in Battlefield 5 come equipped with a single shot weapon. Primarily, there are exceptions to this, of course, like the Sturmgewehr 1.5. But these single shot weapons that are designed for medium to long range don't encourage close quarters play, which is essential if you are thinking about taking on a tank, as you're going to have to get close to a tank in Battlefield 5 with dynamite or anti-tank grenades. Battlefield 1, on the other hand, equips assault players with close quarter shotguns and SMG-like weapons, which are far more suited to an assault player's class type. Medic in Battlefield 1 is well placed to be a medic as well. Having a long range single shot weapon allows them to play a more passive role, picking up fallen teammates from the back of the front line. Having said that, medic is still very strong in Battlefield 5. However, I think for balancing reasons, having the medic as a more long range support role rather than the aggressor makes sense, as ideally you want the assault players up in the front line, as for reasons aforementioned around the importance of them dealing with armor. Now, so far I've been quite critical of Battlefield 5, but I think there's some things that it did really well. One thing was the revive system, where anyone in the squad has the opportunity to revive a squad mate, a bit at a slower rate than the medic. This, I think, really encourages more team and squad players, and any mechanic that encourages team play in a Battlefield game I think is a good one. Now, we touched on the vehicles a little bit in the video regarding their relation to assault players, but haven't really touched on them and how they are used in game. When jumping in Battlefield 1, I distinctly noticed how vehicles were often found to be on objectives, and it was fantastic. Vehicles were heavily used in objective play consistently, which switched up how as an infantry player you went about defending or attacking that objective. It added variety. This is not the case in Battlefield 5, with tank players often sitting at the back of the map, sniping at enemy opponents. Now, some may say this is just down to how the two different player bases play the game. However, this is where I would say you are wrong. Battlefield 1 stayed true to the original design of tank warfare we have seen across all Battlefield games from Battlefield 3 at least, amidst some changes like self-healing. What's important though is that in Battlefield 1, vehicles still have an unlimited ammo pool and the ability to regenerate to full health on their lonesome. Battlefield 5 tanks on the other hand are tied to ammo crates that are typically at the back of the map. In addition, they need to reach these ammo stations to regenerate to full health if they take a certain amount of damage, providing there are no support players around. This means the risk of pushing a tank forward onto objectives in Battlefield 5 is exponentially higher than in other Battlefield games, as soon as they take a shot or take any damage, this is a permanent loss rather than something they can recover from while in battle like in previous Battlefield games. This means that tank play in Battlefield 5 is pretty dull as people just sit and snipe. This does have knock-on effects as well when it comes to balancing, as a lot of maps are designed for attackers to have access to a tank or tanks that help them secure the opposing team's objectives. And when these tanks are not in play and just sitting back, the attack becomes that much harder. I think a map that showcases this really well is Aerodrome, where the tanks just sit at spawn looking over the first objectives. Now you could argue that they do help capture the objective by killing the opposing team. However, I don't think they kill the opposing team at a rate that actually materially helps the team that much, or at least doesn't help the team to the extent that it would if the tank was actually on the objective. The thing is, you can't even fault the players that play the tanks like this in Battlefield 5, as intentional or not, that is how the tanks are optimally played in this game. Having said that, I do think Battlefield 5 again did some things really well. Most notably the movement mechanics. Every time I go back to an old Battlefield, I forget about the lack of movement mechanics. Older Battlefields thus feel like they have a bit of a slower pace. Battlefield 5 with the introduction of movement mechanics added an element of skill when it comes to engagements that isn't present in other games. To be good at older Battlefield games, primarily you needed to have good aim and good positioning. But now with the introduction of movement mechanics in Battlefield 5, I think this adds a third dynamic of skill that a player needs to think about when it comes to winning an engagement. In addition, I found that Battlefield 5 moving away from behemoths was a good thing. I don't like any element of a game where the outcome of a situation doesn't feel under my control, and a behemoth spawning in and proceeding to rain hellfire down on me felt untoward at best. I think Battlefield 5 introducing squad requisitions as almost like a semi-replacement, handing back control directly to the player and or squad to call in reinforcements as they so choose, was a move well made. So I think they're the primary things that went well and not so well for Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1. I'm not going to draw down on what game's better or the like, because that's not the purpose of this video, but rather to draw lessons from the development of these games in the hope that the development of Battlefield 6 in 2021 can incorporate the best elements and remove some of the worst elements from these two games to give us a truly fantastic title in 2021. Anyway chaps, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out as a small content creator, only if you enjoyed, of course. Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, have a great day and peace out.